What's going on, guys? Talking some flashlights today. That's it. So if you're a flashaholic or a CPFer, if you're a lumen monster, yeah, I just made that up. I don't think anyone actually calls themselves lumen monsters. It's kind of lame. But if you're into flashlights, whether you're into the hobby, I mean really headfirst into it, and a huge collector, or if you just happen to be an average Joe or an average Jane, I suppose, there are some females watching as well, and you just find that flashlights are extremely useful to you, you may enjoy this video because it might give you some different perspectives on what to look for when buying a new flashlight. Because you may have the best flashlight in the world right now, and trust me, you are going to buy a new one because technology will advance and there'll be something bigger and better and crazier that lasts longer and it's brighter and whatever. But like everything else, every other hobby, you don't end. We all lie to ourselves. We do. We say, you know what, once I get that one knife, my grail knife or my grail flashlight, my grail gun, I'll stop. Yeah, whatever. Huge, big, fat lie. It's the journey. That's what we love. We love trying new things. And once you get that best thing ever, you want to try something else anyway. So you will, in fact, buy a new flashlight in the future. That's why this video is going to be helpful to you, because I want to point out some different things you may not think of. I think most people's motive, if you're not really into flashlights, but you know, like, you know what, I want to get a flashlight, I want to incorporate it in my EDC system, or I want to get a flashlight to throw in my bob or emergency kit bag or whatever, you know, my bailout vehicle, whatever your deal is, you may be looking into getting a flashlight. So I think what most of you who aren't specifically into the hobby of flashlights and don't know much about them, you approach the situation a little bit differently. You basically are looking for, you know what, what's the brightest flashlight I can get in my budget? I think that's most people's goal. How many lumens can I afford to buy with this amount of money in my wallet? And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, flashlights are very useful, and the brighter the better, right? Of course, once you dive a little bit further into the subject, there's a lot of other variables. Perhaps the purpose of what you're using the flashlight for, the UI, the different modes. What modes am I looking for? Some people don't want complicated flashlights. They don't want SOS. They say, what's the purpose of that? I'll never use that. They don't want strobe. They don't find it's going to be useful to them. They don't want a low mode. They just want, on off, very simple flashlight. Whereas other people, they want a lot of variety. They want their flashlight to be versatile for all these different situations. Now, when it comes to flashlights, there's three major things we're looking for. Three major things. The problem is you can only have two of them at a time. We want the brightest, we want the cheapest, and we want the smallest. Okay? Most people are looking for all three of those things when you're talking about specifically like a purposeful EDC light. Brightest, cheapest, and smallest. Now, you can get a super bright light, but it may not be cheap. You can get a super bright light that's cheap, but it may not be small. You may be looking at something like an LED mag light. You may get something that's super small, but you're going to compromise on how bright it is because you just can't fit the amount of power, the battery setup in a flashlight to get. Let's say, for example, you're looking for 1,000 lumen light, but you want it to be 4 inches long. Well, that may not be possible because in order to power an LED that's going to give you 1,000 lumens, you need a certain amount of battery power. Maybe you need a certain amount of cells of CR123s or 18650s or rechargeable, AA, whatever the situation may be. You can't have it all. You can't have the tiny little compact light that's 2,000 lumens and runs on a AAA battery. It's just not going to happen. So you have to compromise somewhere, whether you're compromising on brightness, on size, or on price. But you can't have it all. So what you want to do is fine-tune what you're looking for in a flashlight. What's its purpose going to be? So anyway, there's two flashlights here, and I love both these flashlights. I'm going to post it's a long review of the double feature of the Olight Maverick M10 and M18. You'll see that video after this one. But this is one of my favorite EDC lights, and this used to be my favorite EDC light. Now, both these lights are extremely comparable, about the same size. They both run on the same single cell CR123A. They both have same size reflectors. They both have a specific mode button, a separate button. They're both tail clickies. Okay, they're both extremely bright. The difference here is this is a Cloris MT10, by the way. I did a review on this a long time ago. I carried this for EDC on and off for a long time. I love this flashlight. This one is brighter. 230 lumens on the Cloris, 350 lumens on the Maverick. Talking about 120 lumens more in this flashlight. But that being said, I still prefer the Cloris. Now, when you look at just the Cloris, it's a very white beam. But in comparison, directly next to the Olight, you can't see it in this video, but shining on the wall at nighttime, I can tell that the Cloris LED, and this is the older LED, this is the R5, whereas the Maverick is sporting the newer XML2. Okay, they're both Cree LEDs, but this is newer technology. This has a more pure white beam. This looks perfectly white, the Cloris. But when you compare them, again, side by side at night, you can tell this is slightly tinted blue, where this is just a pure white. So why would I still prefer the Cloris? This seems like such a better flashlight. For EDC purposes, this is a better flashlight, but there's one very simple, very overlooked feature this Cloris has that this light does not have. Can you guess what it is? The only difference is here, again, this is brighter. This happens to have a smooth reflector, whereas the Cloris has a orange peel or stippled reflector, but their beam quality is almost identical. They're both all about flood. There's not a whole lot of throw with these. I mean, there's power, but it's not a searchlight by any means. But the very simple feature that I prefer in the Cloris, which I feel this makes a better emergency light or preparedness light, this is a better option for a bob or for your vehicle or for your home as opposed to this. Simply because this light here can tail stand. Now I talk about this briefly in the review of the Olight. This is the one thing I do not like about the Olight Maverick M10 is that it cannot tail stand. What does that mean? Well, this is the tail cap, bottom. It won't stand. It's that simple. The Cloris will, because our button is flush mounted with our frame or body. Why is that important? For an EDC light, it's not important because you're going to be carrying around, you're going to be holding it and using it and making things bright, right? Nothing wrong with that. But for emergency preparedness and or natural disaster, power outages, what have you, any kind of emergency situation where you need light, you rely on light, you want to have the option to use tail stand simply for the fact that you can put this into a room or an area and you can emit light throughout the entire place. You cannot do that with this light. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to have to use other items to prop it up, to hold it up. It's an inconvenience. This is a very, very simple feature. Again, very overlooked, but for emergency situations, a much better option. This is not quite as bright. It's not quite as pure white, but I still prefer it over this for emergencies. For an EDC light, nothing wrong with this. This is a better option in my opinion because you have more light to emit for different situations. But something to think about. That may not be something you've ever thought about before is, well, can I tail stand it? Can I use this to, emit light throughout a room if I need to, if the power's out? Well, now you do. Now it's something to consider. Other things to consider when you're buying flashlights, materials, should be the first thing, the overall quality of the light. But I've referred to this or talked about this in the Olight review. All flashlights in 2013, I would be confident in saying any flashlight that's $20 or more is built to pretty good quality standards. I don't see a whole lot of cheap flashlights that are falling apart. They're very standard across the board. You have, aluminum. Now, of course, when you get into the really high-end stuff or custom lights, you're talking about maybe some titanium or stainless steel, some different types of materials. But across the board, I would be very confident in saying 95% or more of flashlights these days have Type 2 or Type 3 hard anodized aluminum bodies. That's so standard right now, okay? Extremely standard. And with most mid-grade, I'd say, $20 to $100 flashlights, they usually will have glass reflectors, or not reflectors, glass lenses with an anti-glare coating of some kind, and most of them will have a aluminum or metal reflector inside. We're not talking plastic anymore. They don't, good quality flashlights are using plastic. So it's not a problem. You don't have to worry about your lens cracking or breaking very easily. You don't have to worry about, the quality in your flashlight. So quality is not a huge issue. If your budget's $5, yeah, you might be looking at getting a plastic flashlight. But for the most part, if you're investing a little bit of money into your flashlights, whether it's for a bag or a vehicle or, for your personal EDC, quality is not your major concern. I think your major concern is going to be function. What are you using it for? Different flashlights have different modes. Figure out what you're going to use, what kind of features and modes would be beneficial to you. I think for an EDC light, me personally, I like to have a strobe mode. Not only do I like to have a strobe mode for defensive purposes, not only for people, but for animals too. Where I happen to live, we have a lot of wildlife. We have some black bear. We have mountain lions. Of course, you don't see them, but they're definitely in the area. I'll probably never see one, but that is definitely wildlife that I would be concerned with. We have coyotes. You could have a rabbit, anything around here, and this would be a very good defensive tool to use. It's not going to hurt the animal. Not that I would care. If I had a rabid animal attacking me, I'd kill it if I could, but I can't go trying to shoot a rabid squirrel or a rabid fox or something. It's unpractical and dangerous. I'm not going to endanger people around me. So, and I'm not going to necessarily want to get close enough to use some kind of a blade. That would be ridiculous and foolish. So one of the best options besides, say, like a pepper spray or similar to a pepper spray would be a strobe mode on an extremely high-powered flashlight. This will disorientate the animal, and it would get them off of you. Using any kind of a strobe, it's going to distract that animal. It's not going to be able to see where you are. It's not going to be able to attack you. Same with a person. You lose the ability to see, and you lose the ability to be an effective fighter. If you can't see what you're trying to fight or attack, you're not going to be very good at it. So strobe is something I personally look for as a mode in my flashlights. Now, I also think about it. If you're going to use strobe, you're going to use it in an emergency situation. You're going to need to get to it quick. I don't want something that is complicated. I don't want to have to twist the head 5 times, push the button 2 times, and recite my name. It's too much. I got to get to it fast. Can I get to strobe fast? That's what I'm looking for in a flashlight. Of course, we all want the brighter the better. The brighter it is, the more lumens, the better. I think that goes without saying. Having different modes, brightness levels is a great attribute. Both these flashlights do have that. Of course, we have it in our high mode here, but using the buttons on the front, we can cycle through low, medium, and high. That is huge. That really helps because there's a lot of different situations where you may not want, in this case, 350 lumens. You may only want a couple lumens, to read something close up and not get that glare, that light reflecting back. So having options is very good. I personally can care less about SOS in a flashlight. I can manually do SOS. The idea behind having it as a mode is you're trapped somewhere and it's nighttime and you can just set it to SOS, put your flashlight down. You can do other things while it's sending that help beacon out. Is that useful? Perhaps in an extremely rare situation that would be useful, but I'll rely on the fact that if I do have a flashlight and I do need to use SOS, I can just do it manually when I need to. So it's a mode that is seldom going to be used, if ever. I don't need it in my flashlight. I can do that. Same if you don't have strobe in a flashlight, you can always use your momentary on to make strobe. So that's also a consideration. If you get a light and you're like, I love that light, but it doesn't have strobe, not that big of a deal. You can take any old flashlight. If it has a momentary on versus tail clicky, of course you can do strobe. Just keep turning on and off. That's strobe. So I don't know. Something to consider. Flashlights are going to be one of 2 things or a combination of both. You're going to be talking about the light output being throw or flood. And what does that mean? Throw is basically you're projecting the light in a concentrated form. You're narrowing the width of the beam and you're trying to push it out as far as possible. You would use throw in a searchlight type situation if you want to really reach out very far, look up into trees, look way down your street, you want distance. That's throw. Flood is basically you're spreading out the light so it's as wide and even as possible. It's a wall of light. Now, all flashlights are going to be some combination of both. It's not going to be just a 3-inch circle that goes 5 miles, and it's not going to be just a wall of light that reaches out 100 feet in all directions. There's some kind of a compromise. There's going to be some kind of setup with your reflector that's going to give you a little bit of distance and a little bit of spread. Now, depending on what you're going to use your light for, you may want more spread or more distance. It's purposely, you should be purchasing your flashlights for purpose-built situations. Now, for an EDC light, you want just a little bit of both. You want to be able to, in some situations, you want to have a little wall light, you want some spread and some flood. In other situations, you want a little bit of throw. So it has to be more versatile because you don't know what kind of situations you're going to be in. Of course, if you do have the opportunity to get an adjustable flashlight where the head will rotate to change, like an old school mag light, you know, you can change from flood to throw. You can narrow it to what your needs are. There are other flashlights that do that as well. That is, I think, a big advantage in a high-powered flashlight. You know, if you could find those, that's a great option. But they're few and far. For a regular EDC light, versatility is good. Both of these lights are fantastic where, you know, if you want a lot of throw, you would just use, you know, your max output on here, and it would give you the maximum throw for this flashlight. Whereas if you want just a wall of light, you could, you know, dim it down a little bit, put it down to, say, the medium output, and it won't give you as much throw, but of course it will spread just slightly more. Stipple reflectors or any kind of texture on your reflectors will dissipate the light, okay? When the light's reflecting off of it, it bounces in all different directions. That's why it gives you an even wall of light, okay? It gives you more flood because it's bouncing all around evenly, as opposed to really smooth reflectors, generally speaking. Not in this one. This one happens to have a pretty good amount of flood, but smooth reflectors will throw the light as opposed to bounce it around. It's concentrating that light. So those are just some different things to think about when you're buying flashlights. What are you going to buy it for? What are you going to use it for? Like I said, everyone wants the brightest they can possibly afford in their budget, but think about other things. Think about if it's, you know, something as simple as, can it stand up if I need to, you know, light a room up when the power's out, or how hard is it to get to the different modes I want to use? You know, is strobe important to you? You know, do you want a specific mode for strobe, or are you going to rely on the fact that, you know, if you do need to use it, that you can use the momentary on? So that's something you can do with that flashlight. Those are all just different things to consider when buying new flashlights. There's a lot of great flashlights out there. There's tactical lights, there's utility lights, there's big lights, there's small lights, there's lights that run on very simple, cheap batteries to find, and there's lights that run on extremely expensive, hard to find batteries. You know, lithiums, the CR123s, and a lot of the rechargeables, they're going to give you more power. All right, all day long, you're going to find a much brighter flashlight if it's running on a CR123 as opposed to AA's. It's just because there's more power in a smaller package, so that it's able to do that. For an EDC light, you don't want to maybe get into 18650s because then you're talking about a larger frame. It may not be, maybe too big for your pocket or however you want to carry it. So there's a lot of different variables. There's a lot of things to consider. Not everyone thinks about that kind of stuff. It's kind of like, yeah, I want the bright one, and that's where the thought ends. I need a flashlight. I want a bright one. There's nothing wrong with that logic either. Of course, we all want a bright flashlight, but you know, you're the consumer. It's your money. Educate yourself, learn about things. Like I said, candlepowerforums.com. It is the best place on the internet to learn about flashlights. Everything flashlights you can find over there. The people are extremely friendly. They can really help you out with any kind of questions you have. You know, do search. There's been topics on everything. So if you have a question, it's probably already been answered. But if you really can't find it, start a new thread, you know, and ask new questions. But flashlights are much more than I need the bright one. You know, you can really fine tune what your needs are and figure out what your needs are and find the perfect flashlight for you. Because the perfect flashlight for me may not be good for what you need it for. So just keep in mind, if you are looking for an EDC light, you want the variety. You want options, okay? But some of you out there, you know, have different preferences. Maybe you just want one that doesn't have modes. It just turns on and it turns off. It's really easy to use. Maybe you're trying to get a flashlight, you know, for your wife or your child, and they really don't care. Like us guys, most guys are into flashlights, although there are some women. Generally speaking, it's guy stuff. It's man toys, and we love all our modes and all our cool tactical crap. And you know, you get a flashlight for your wife to use in an emergency, and she has no idea how to turn it on, how to use it. It's complicated. Like I said, you gotta like twist the head 5 times, push the button. She doesn't know what to do. You know, get her the flashlight. If she really doesn't care about them and just wants a light, get her the one that just turns on and turns off. That's it. And get her the brightest one possible. But for you, you may want some more options. You may want some more versatility and more variety in what your flashlight can offer for you, for your needs. So hopefully that's informative and not boring to have listened to. But either way, if there's some things to consider that you thought of that I didn't mention in the video, please post in the comments. Like I've said before, it's how we all learn, by reading and helping each other. It's what we're here to do, is enjoy our hobbies together and help each other. So if there are other things to consider, you know, like I said, maybe waterproof. I think most flashlights these days are water resistant. Unless you're going to be a specific diver, you don't have to worry about that. Most flashlights can go at least 3 meters underwater without any problems. You know, you can stand out in a pouring rainstorm and it's not going to be an issue. It's not going to break or anything. But if there are other considerations that I did miss, please post them in the comments, you know, or make video responses and talk about what maybe you're looking for in a flashlight to help other people figure out, you know, what they may like. So that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for your time and for watching it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy, guys.